Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Mortgage Coach Connecting the Dots. I'm Megan Hastings, your host, and today we have two incredible guests who are here to share their unique journeys and insights of parenthood and entrepreneurship.
That's right. In our brokerage, we have a group of people with a diverse range of personal and professional experiences, and we're excited to hear from them today. In the studio with us, we have Rebecca, Blaha, and Brad Lockey. Nice
Hello.
to have you guys here with us.
Hey. It's great to be here.
When you guys last appeared on our podcast, we ended up sort of starting to talk about parenthood, and then we thought, oh, that would be a great podcast episode itself. So that's what we're here doing today, to kind of dive deeper into that discussion.
Nice. So before we jump into the real serious stuff, tell us a little bit about your family and also one parenting moment or lesson that you could share. Rebecca, we'll start with you.
Okay. Well, I have 4 kids ranging, their ages are 22, 19, 17, and 15. My oldest is my daughter, who is, as I was saying just a minute ago, she's perfect and did not give me any indication of what was to come next with her brothers. Yeah. What was the second part of the question?
A parenting moment that stands out to you, or something that may be like a lesson that you've learned, or maybe something that makes you cringe.
Oh, actually, I thought a lot about this because there's been so many parenting moments, like the last 22 years of trying to sift through everything and figure out which one was the best one to share. But what I came up with was the fact that every kid is so different. And I'll give you the example of my first 2. So my daughter was this tiny little active kid who never stopped moving. She's messy, crazy. Like, she actually, when she was in grade 6, her teacher called me into his office and had a talk with me about her organization skills, or lack thereof. And he had to sit her in between 2 very organized girls so that he could contain her mess. And then when my son was born, he was the exact opposite. He was big. He liked to eat. My daughter did not. And he loved to just sit there. And he was the most organized, meticulous kid I've ever met when he was little. He looked like a little red-headed dinosaur. But I used to dress him, it was 20 years ago, I used to dress him in these little collared polo shirts that he would insist on having done all the way up to the top. So just like they got the same things. I did the same things when I was pregnant with them. I loved them the exact same way. They wore the same diapers. Like, everything was the same, but these 2 little kids turned out so completely different from each other, and they still are extremely different from each other. So it's interesting how personalities are formed, and different experiences lead to different things. So same experiences can lead to different things.
And there's no 2 mortgages that are the same. Right?
Exactly. I was
nice.
trying to tie it all in together, but you hit it right on the head there.
I love how the teacher put your daughter in between 2 organized people so that their habits would rub off. I think actually I've done that myself in some way, because I feel like I've sandwiched myself between Laura and our underwriting manager, Amy. You guys are both organized, and I feel like it keeps me in the straight line.
It's funny.
Brad, how about you?
My family consists of my wife, who I've known since high school. We weren't high school sweethearts or anything like that. However, we ended up married, and it's been blissful. We have 1 child. She just turned 11 in June, so we are constantly struggling with parenting. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Megan? About your family?
I have 2 kids, almost 13 and 10, and they're both very different as well, which I think same. We've done everything. Well, I'm sure we haven't done anything the same, actually, but in my mind, I think we tried. And I have they're both very funny, but my son is very unique sense of humor, and he has, you know what I love lately is Facebook memories, because when you put something about your kids, then it comes up like 5 years later. So he had said something several years ago when he was young, and it was when I was in your tummy, I used to do cave paintings with blueberries.
Wow.
And he has there's a million little one-liners that he said. I just think it's hilarious.
That's so funny. Brad, you didn't get to share an antidote.
Well,
or
first, I'd
story?
like to hear about your family as well.
Oh, my
That's
family?
Okay, yes.
So I have 2 kids as well, 2 biological kids and 1 fur baby.
Ah.
So my son is 19, my daughter is 15, and then Alice, my little baby, is going to be 3 in January. She's my puppy. And
Are you going to share a story about your kids or Alice? That's what
I'm trying to think. A good parenting moment would be like, Alice likes to cuddle with me every morning, and my children no longer cuddle with me. So she fills that hole for me. But really what I've liked seeing lately with my kids is the moments when they get along. Or when my son will go to Tim Hortons and bring back something for Veda. Just things like that. It makes me think, okay, I've done something right, and I know that they'll be they'll have each other, and I just want them to be friends. And I know, there's a 4-year age gap, and my son's almost 20, she's still 15. It's hard for them to hang out with each other and their friends, but my hope is as they grow up and become adults that they'll be friends with each other. And so when I see those moments, it really makes me happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those small little things
Yeah.
that many go unnoticed
Mhm.
to other people, but you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I did
Or
something right.
sometimes Veda will be in Presley's room and they're listening to The Weeknd for 3-4 hours. And I'm like, that's so nice. And I want to go in and listen too, but I'm like, I got to go to bed and just let them have their moments together. So those are things that are sticking out to me more recently. Yeah.
Getting back to the valuable lessons. So about 6 or 8 weeks ago, I'm a pretty hardcore stickler about being neat and tidy around the house. So with an 11-year-old, you know how that goes sometimes. So things are just left, on the couch. So I'll pick that clothing item up and I'll put it at the bottom of my laundry. And then she's looking for the same item. And I say, hey, it's gone right now. It's not going to be clean for another, 5-10 days, maybe, however often I do laundry. So little lessons like that, I try to impose upon her. But what was funny was it kind of came full circle. I asked her to clean her room, and it's always push back, push back, push back. However, she did say to me, because I think we were cleaning the entire house because we had company coming over. So I heard her upstairs, literally from a floor below, and it was like that aha moment. And I said, are you okay? And she's like, I know why you want me to clean my room all the time. And I was like, okay, this is going to be good. And she's like, when I have my own place, I wouldn't want to walk into someone's apartment that was a disaster. So I understand why you're so hardcore about this, more or less, because that just shows that I'm not organized, and people may not want to come over to my house if it's a mess as well. So I understand why you're trying to hammer that down as best you can. And I was like, wow, yeah, no, exactly. My reaction to it, and I told Alicia too, I was just like, it was a good feeling though. It was almost like patience, perseverance. You have to have that as parents. You have to have that as mortgage agents, I think too, because sometimes I think of my clients almost as if they're my children, because I have to show them care. I have to share with them. I have to teach them. I have to wipe their bums sometimes, all that sort of stuff.
You're really
But,
full service there, bro.
yeah. But it was cool. It was one of those full circle moments that I think we've all kind of been through, and it positively reaffirms that, okay, I'm doing something right?
Has her behavior changed since then? Has she maintained a clean room?
No, I mean, there's still, the odd item around. It is better though. It's getting better, but YouTube, man. YouTube gets in the way.
Same. That's the same in our house.
I know.
It's YouTube all the time.
It's tough, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about your entrepreneurial journey in the mortgage industry. So what led you to being a mortgage agent? And how did being a parent influence, you becoming an agent, and also, I guess, your activities and time that you're able to dedicate into it as well? Brad, we're going to start with you.
So I had I still remember the day that I resigned from my insurance career was June 25th, 2010.
Wow.
And I remember I shared an office with someone who was a lifer. She'd been there for, 30 plus years. And I kind of just pushed my chair back and said, I think I'm going to go resign. And she said, bull crap. I said, no, I'm serious. So I walked down the hall. Obviously, I spoke to my wife about it before, but I made that transition that day. We had me and 3 other partners had a startup in the insurance industry. So it's not like I didn't have a fallback. However, that startup did not succeed. So I had to do something else. And it was about, I think, December 2010 is when I wrote my mortgage license, because I always had an affinity for numbers. I always was interested, and I was already accelerating my own mortgage pay down. And I thought, you know what, I think I can build a business out of this. I'm going to go give it a try. But I remember I wrote my exam, got my license, and then we found out we were pregnant. So I was like, okay, I have to make this work. So yeah, I did. Here I am 12 years later.
Did you ever consider, like when you found out Alicia was pregnant, oh, I should go get a job?
It was there. I mean, that's a long time ago. I can't recall exactly, but yeah, that mentality, that choice, it was scary for sure. And I did go into significant debt on my own line of credit, but I just had the belief, and I knew full well that I can make this work, and I'm going to make it work. So I made it work.
You sure did. Yeah.
What about you, Rebecca?
I think my journey into this started probably about 20 years ago, actually. I thought about taking the mortgage agent or the mortgage broker license course at Seneca, but I had a baby at home at the time. It was a 2-year program. It was full-time, and the school was actually about at least 45 minutes to an hour from where I lived. And there was no flexibility in terms of going down to part-time. And just one of my big goals with my kids was that I was going to be present, and this was going to take me away for the first 2 years of his life. So I put it on the back burner, got into a few other things, house flipping, a real estate marketing business that we started. I ran a music studio. I started and ran a music studio for about 7 years. And then I had a pretty full list of students, but I really wanted to wind it down and do something different. And a friend told me that, oh, actually, to become a mortgage broker, it's only a course. You can probably do it in a few weeks if you really want to. I'm like, oh. So I started considering it, and I think that was back right before COVID, actually, which was perfect. I lost all but 2 of my full-time list of students, which was a very natural transition. And then I just seamlessly transitioned into becoming a mortgage agent.
So your kids would have been kind of past that, like they're older anyway, right? Like kind of less care, which is kind of a nice place to be in when you're starting a new career. Yeah,
it was perfect. It actually was perfect timing in terms of everything that was going on in my life at the time. And yeah, the kids, they were older. They were obviously in school most of the time. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. It was COVID, so they were not in school. But yeah, they were at an age where they were really a lot more self-sufficient and able to help out a little bit more. But I mean, I was already working while they were home from school, so it's a balance.
Yeah. So as entrepreneurs, I mean, we've all faced a lot of challenges. Can you share a moment of personal growth that would be directly tied to your experience as a parent?
Yes, I did. I actually had fairly recently, like this year at some point, I was just listening to something, a podcast or something, and basically the host said, nobody's going to do it if you don't do it. And like nobody's going to care about what happens to you or your kids, or nobody's going to be able to explain why you have to move your kids out of their school district because you can't afford to live there anymore. I don't know, hit me kind of like a ton of bricks, because this is why I do everything. I do everything for my kids, right? I think as parents, like we want to see their successes and we want to see their growth, and we want them to have everything that they possibly could have. And I'm like, oh, if I don't do this, then I'm going to have to be accountable to myself for making that change in their life that might be negative. So it did hit me like a bit of a ton of bricks, and it changed my whole mindset about why I do what I do. And I do what I do because I want to be present with my kids. That was always my intention, no matter what I have done in my life. My intention was that I would be present with them. And like, okay, well, if I'm going to make this work, I want to make this work because I want to be present and I want to let them have what they want in their life. So,
have you noticed a difference? Like, since that happened, have you noticed a tangible difference in your business?
100%. So now I do things. Actually, Brad is the inspiration in terms of like how I structure my day and what I do in my day. Time blocking, which I'm sure you'll touch on at some point. But just being able to sit and focus on certain things during the day, and then I can block time out for my kids at the end of the day, or when they're home. But that has fundamentally changed my business, the way I deal with files and clients, and the amount of time I'm able to spend lead generating. And yes, it has changed everything.
Mine is kind of hilarious. So I had zero experience with children before mine. Like I was thinking about this last night, 4 babies before I held my own child. And it was kind of like just the picture opportunity. It wasn't really holding them. It was like, okay, just take a picture and get this thing out of here kind of. But checklist. So in the beginning of being a parent, because I didn't have that experience, I relied on my wife, who had 2 younger brothers that she helped raise the youngest one. So I looked to her for everything. But it was literally like, let's build a checklist so Brad doesn't let our baby die. Like, that's how basic it was, right? And then I was just thinking, though, okay, there's a checklist here for life, how to get through a day. And then I converted that into how my business ran, and read a book called The Checklist Manifesto, which is a huge game-changing book for anyone out there. But, you know, our job is not rocket science. It really isn't. It's really connecting with people, finding out what the problem is, helping them solve the problem. But by building a checklist, talking about maybe what documents are required to get a file done, how a checklist actually morphed into an actual customer journey. But yeah, it all started with a basic checklist on how to keep this baby alive, because Brad doesn't know, and Brad will do his best. And I mean, as a parent, you know, I'm joking, honestly, obviously, but there were some things that, take the baby for a walk, make sure the sun is not beating down on baby for 45 minutes or an hour or something like that. Like literally, that's how basic it had to be, because I had no idea. But like I say, looking at that and being able to rely on that for my next step, I was thinking, okay, I can tell my clients the exact same kind of thing and help them get through this journey together.
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And I think that's also directly related to how we deal with clients. Like, they don't know what they don't know either, and they rely on us to do it for them.
100%. And that's why I said before, I mean, teaching, sharing, caring about your clients just as you would your child is beneficial for actual success. If you treat your client like a transaction, you're not going to work with them again. And you shouldn't, I don't think, if it's just transactional.
I actually had a similar experience. I didn't have any babies in my life when I was growing up. Once when I was 5, I held the neighbor's baby. And then maybe a baby like my sister-in-law had, but really I was not around babies at all. And when we had our first child, actually Ian was the one who changed the first diaper, because I was like, I don't know what to do.
I did too. Yeah.
That was really crazy.
Did you get to keep that up? Keep playing like, I don't know how to do it.
Well, there actually was a few things similar to Brad's checklist. Things were very confusing for me after I had a baby, because we used like the bottles are confusing. There's like these Dr. Brown's bottles, and there's like you have to put the thing in it. There's like multiple parts and whatever. I just could not get the hang of it. So he was always sterilizing the bottles. He did the organization part, and he went overboard, but it was a lot. I remember like the first day home, I wanted some fruit. Like your body just craves fruit. So he like went to town and made this fruit salad that was like the size of a boat. Like it was huge, but it was just, there was a lot of things that I didn't grasp what he did. So.
Well, when Alicia was pregnant, I actually was working a landscaping job when I got into this industry with a guy from high school. And I remember being on his front porch. His daughter, I think, was 3 years old maybe. And he's just like, watch my daughter, because he had to go sign for some machine that was being dropped off or something. I'm like, yeah, cool, I got it, right? And doesn't his daughter take a step off of the porch? And I'm trying to just maintain or kind of hold, but not touching the child either, because it's not my child. And she fell and she hit her head on the ground. She starts crying, and he's like, dude, you're going to be a great father. You know? It was funny. Yeah, for sure.
Well, your daughter's 11 now. So
yeah. No, it was a long time ago. I've learned a lot.
You've done well.
It's been the toughest experience, I think, of my life, but the most rewarding. I say that as often as I can, because, you know, seeing your child grow and seeing your child ask real questions at this age, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, the conversation starts to change, right? With the elder.
But I appreciated the early conversations too, because I am a kid at heart. I try to be as buoyant as possible around the house, and, you know, joking, laughing.
I'm sure now having Simba helps too.
Yes. We got a dog, yeah.
Dogs help everything.
It's always about the fur babies.
I know, because I love Alice, and so I know
Maybe
that
we
you
should
love
have-
Simba too.
We could have a podcast about dogs too, separate, right?
Maybe.
We could do that.
Everything I do in my business is for Alice's future, so I'll just put that out there. But we all have different reasons for like why we, you know, achieve and strive for our achievement in our lives. And I'm just sort of curious, what are some of the ways, and I know, Brad, you have a really good system, and Rebecca kind of touched on it, like how do you manage the balance between striving for success in like the mortgage industry and in your business, but also maintaining your family balance, and what's important to you with your family? Like how do you manage the two, and how do you mesh them together?
It's a constant struggle, obviously, because when you have a client, that client is thinking, okay, they're not working with anyone else. They're just working with me. So when I call, they should be able to pick up the phone. When I have a question, they should be able to answer it, which is, you know, not wrong. But if they call at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and I'm eating dinner with my family, or I'm at an event with my family, I don't pick up my phone. And it took a long time to do that. So someone in this industry in the beginning, it may be difficult to say, you know, put your focus on what you want to focus on at that time, and just omit the rest. You're not going to get an answer back from a lender or something at 9 o'clock at night anyways, right? So, but what you can do is also tell them, like I tell all my clients, I'm a family man first, business is second, but that doesn't mean that, you know, you're off to the side. You're always going to be during the, if you want to call it 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, whatever your working hours are, you have me. So ask any questions you want. I'll guide you through the next process. You know exactly what step is going to be next, but time blocking is a huge one for me. I remind myself to eat at 12:15 every day, because some days it'll be 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and you haven't eaten anything. But the more I think you can share calendars within the house too. So we have a shared calendar with my wife. I invited her to this podcast, even though she's not here. She knows that I'm out of the house, so she can't rely on me for anything. But I have every 2 hours, I drop and do 25 push-ups. And if I don't have that in my calendar telling me to do so, I'll forget. And that's the reason it's there, because I forgot too often. Every Wednesday night, I have an alarm at 8:30 at night that says, write Erica an email. So I'll try to recap the past week with my daughter, to kind of tell her what I was proud of, what we need to work on, or to, you know, throw out something funny that happened, so that she can look back and actually have these memories too, and remember week by week by week what happened. So yeah, calendar runs my day. My calendar runs my business. It's and it's so easy. I mean, Google Calendar is right there. You want something to happen, put it in the calendar. You're going to be reminded. You're going to get it done. If you don't, it's not going to get done. That's just what I found without using a calendar in the past.
Can I ask a quick question?
You sure
I'm curious, when you first started telling your clients, like, I'm a family man first, this is my priority, was there any like fear or that you would lose a client because of it?
The first year of my business, and I probably paid for it. And what I mean by paid for it was I didn't get paid for that time, but every Friday I took off and we went to the zoo, we went to the park with my daughter or something. But having that sentence and weaving that into a conversation with a client or a realtor partner, I knew that I wasn't going to lose them. I think it actually gave me more credibility because the real realtors out there understood. A lot of them are family people as well. And they're like, okay, this guy is balanced. You know what I mean? He's got it working. But I assured them that by the end of workday, whatever day it is, we're going to have everything complete as much as possible. So, I mean, 4:30, 5 o'clock rolls around on a Friday and I get a phone call on a Saturday. I know that phone call is an absolute emergency. So sometimes I pick it up. Sometimes it goes to voicemail if I'm at the zoo or something like that. But yeah, there was a bit of fear, but not a great deal of fear because I knew that's what I wanted to do with my business and how I wanted to run my business and how I wanted my clients and my realtor partners and everyone to perceive me as human. Again, I think we said this on the last podcast, because we can all be machines, but then we're going to have terrible relationships with our kids, with our spouses. We're going to get divorced. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. So it was an easy one for me after I kind of looked at it from, 10,000 feet up to say, okay, this is how I want to run things. And this is what I want to happen.
I had a very different experience as a parent, I would say. When I was pregnant with my first kid, I didn't want anybody to know. Like, there was this fear that if my referral partners knew I was pregnant, they'd think I was just going to disappear and not be able to help their clients. And actually, one of our BDMs, who's still our BDM today, was one of the only people that knew that I was pregnant. And I was the size of a house. So I don't know how anybody missed it. But then, when you have kids and they start going to daycare and they're sick more than they're healthy, like, I'd have meetings or things scheduled and they would get canceled because of a sick kid or something happened. And I would never want to say that it was because of my son is sick or my daughter's sick. So I would make up these other stories, like, I don't know what it was. Like, I double booked myself, or like these somehow linked to being professional and not linked to family, which then I just made myself look like a flake because I was double booking myself all of the time. Mm-hmm. And so then finally one day it was just like, it is what it is. And I just sort of accepted it and owned it. And I will have to say, after that point, my business increased. I think because I then became authentic, right? It was like, I do have a family. I do have kids. My kid's sick. I can't make it.
Well, yeah, you're not keeping track of 8 different fibs in your head, and you're not, there's no filter over it. It's just like, okay, this is it. This is life. Yeah. We can still get what we need to get done.
Yeah. There was definitely this like underlying fear though, until that point, that if people knew I had kids, they would think that I wouldn't be able to do the work. Yeah. It was interesting.
Which I think, just that maybe I have like I have a thought about that, is it's the saying of like, when a dad parents his kids, it's like, oh, he's such a great dad. When a mom parents her kids, it's like, oh, like, it's just expected. And like, if you like, as you're saying, you had a fear people think you're less professional because you're also dedicated to your kids, whereas for Brad it wasn't the case. He's like, people are gonna think I'm more professional because I'm dedicated to my kids. So, and it's true, we're all human, we all have families and priorities, and so that's too bad that you felt fearful.
No, it's got to be tough for sure. I wasn't there. I wasn't showing when Alicia was pregnant. Right. So I don't know how that felt. Yeah.
It's funny. I'd say it's almost been completely different since growing the brokerage, because there was a period of time where we were only hiring, not for any real reason. Like, it wasn't well thought out. It was just sort of happening that we were hiring women with young kids. Mm-hmm. Right. It just sort of happened to be that way. And then there's a whole saying where if you want something done, you give it to like a busy mother.
It's true though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually had an appointment with a realtor a couple of weeks ago, and the first one she had to cancel because she had kids, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing, because you're a real person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then if you need to cancel because of something with your family, they're going to understand that, right?
Yeah.
So if there's people who don't have kids, maybe that just wasn't a priority, or it's not, happened for them. Maybe they don't understand that same sort of commitment that you have to family, as you do actually have to work, but family comes first, right? So would you be able to share your work-life balance strategies?
Yeah, I was actually, it's nice to have that conversation about the women in parenting conversation, because I think in anything we have a lot of mom guilt, mm-hmm. right? And one of the things that helps me strike a balance is that list that I have in my day. And I know I feel like a lot of guilt if I don't get that list. So other things that are really, really important maybe fall to the wayside, like helping with homework or making sure dinner is on the table at a decent time. But I think when I grasped that idea of time blocking, it gave me permission to just work on that one task for, or whatever, however many tasks at a time for that certain period of time, and then I can let it go. And that frees me up to be able to be present again and still with my kids when they're around and home, and takes away that guilt of not completing everything in the way that I wanted to complete it during the day. So I think that idea of time blocking and organizing your life and your schedule, it's super helpful.
I agree.
And I also always now on a Sunday night just will go through my week and just decide what I did really, really well. And I keep that going for the next week. And I also decide what I didn't do very well in all areas. So not only family, but also business. And I switch it up, or I try something new. So I found that actually really helps as well.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs could actually benefit from like literally time blocking an hour to say, I'm going to go hang out with my kid. Because, I mean, there's probably 20 unreads in my inbox right now that I can go to at any time and answer an action. However, there's also a child upstairs possibly watching YouTube. And if I want to yank her off that, let's go do something else, right? But I mean, again, time blocking, forcing yourself to do something. Maybe you do that on a Thursday night when you never have. Maybe you switch it up and do it on a Tuesday night the following week or something. But I mean, I think we can all benefit from something like that.
Yeah. I think sometimes our idea of success changes too. You know, I feel very accomplished when I help Gracie with her homework, and almost like more so than, I don't know, some professional accomplishments. Like, yeah, but I did math today. It feels so good.
New math.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for sharing your insights and your personal experience. It's clear that parenthood and entrepreneurship is so intertwined and it's complex. And, you know, I think all of our stories help to shed light on the challenges and navigating both worlds at the same time. But before we wrap up, I'm curious if there's any final thoughts or advice that you would like to share with our listeners.
Ted Lasso.
Oh, I love it.
There's an amazing quote during that dart scene. And if no one's seen the show, by all means, watch the show, but go and watch just type in Ted Lasso dart scene on YouTube. But the crux of it was be curious, not judgmental. I mean, if you're curious with your children, you're going to find out why they're thinking a certain way, right? Get to the root of what they're thinking, as opposed to just telling them something to do. Ask why. Be curious. Be curious with your clients. If you're not curious with your clients, you're not asking the right questions, something's going to blow up down the road. But be curious with your business as well. Like we've talked about trying so many different things. You're only going to know that it's either going to pass or fail if you try it, right? So just be curious everywhere. Be curious about people, conversations. Like I'll talk to anyone. And my wife gets annoyed sometimes. We'll be walking the dog and I'm like, hey, what kind of dog is that, right? So we'll cross the street, talk to the owners. And then next thing you know, it's like 22 minutes later and the dog's standing there like, dude, let's keep moving here, you know? But everyone should be more curious, I think. I think a lot of conflict can be resolved before it starts if you're curious. So that's my final thought today.
That is a great scene too.
Yeah, it is.
I would say for me, and what I would want people to know is understand why you do the things that you do. And if your end goal is to be present with your family, if your end goal is that, do things that contribute to you being able to be present with your family. Time block, or I don't know, schedule things in, and turn off your phone when you're with your kids. If that's important to you, if that's your end goal, then you have to do things that support that end goal.
Do you have any advice?
Oh, geez.
Final thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think that business will always be there. Emails will always be there, right? But the time you have with your kids, it is so fleeting. Like it does go so fast that if you obviously manage your business, but for me, like family now always takes priority, which I can't say it was always the case because I was always afraid of, again, like losing business. So yeah, I think it's just prioritizing that family and knowing that business will always be there. There'll always be more business.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
How about you?
For me, I guess it'd just be to not be so hard on yourself. Like I'm very hard on myself. I feel like I haven't accomplished enough in my life. I feel like I should have more. I should be more successful. Like I should be all these, especially being in an entrepreneurial world. I just feel like maybe I don't stack up to where other people are, but I also have to remind myself that like my life is my life, and so my circumstances are different from other people, and the way that I like react to certain things or how I have to deal with certain things is different than other people. So it would just be to not be so hard on yourself, which is hard for me to do, but that would be the best advice because I have like a lot of patience and forgiveness for my kids and for where they fall short maybe of my expectations. So I should have that for myself, and I know that I don't. So that would be probably my advice.
That's a good one. I think like we're all somebody's idea of success, right? Like somebody's looking at you going, "Oh, I want to be just like Laura," right? So we're all somebody's idea of success.
Yeah, maybe.
No, for sure.
So yeah, but I just think I have, like I said, so much grace and leeway for my children and my family that I just have to also allow that for myself. And I will be more successful as time goes on because, business grows and your life changes and it all ebbs and flows, right? So, that's it.
See, and on a wrapping up note, in my calendar right now, I know there's an alarm going off saying, go get Erica at the bus stop. And then I've got karate tonight. They're both in the calendar, so use your calendars, guys.
Yeah.
That's a perfect cue to wrap up then.
Brad's got to go. Thank you, Brad and Rebecca, for coming today. We really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for tuning in to our podcast, the Mortgage Coach Connecting the Dots.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's great.